Welcome to the Loudoun Now Sports. I'm Kurt Aschermann, your host, and I'm pleased to be here to kind of lead these discussions and conversations about sports in Loudoun County. We're going to look at youth sports. We'll look at high school sports, maybe even spend some time on some professional sports and college sports, but mostly high school and youth leagues. We want to cover the issues facing athletes and coaches and their administrators and the state of athletics and sports in Loudoun County. And what better way to start this than with the head of athletics for Loudoun County Public Schools, Derek Farrey. Derek, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
So, Derek, you've got quite a background. I'm smart enough to ask you to send me a bio, and it was way longer than my bio. You've been in athletics, though, most of your life. You were an athlete in high school. You wrestled and ran? Do I have that right?
I coached cross country and track. It was mainly because I had a principal and athletic director that needed a coach at the time, and they asked me to do it. I was a health and physical education teacher, so it made sense. And I ran a lot because of wrestling and trying to maintain my weight.
Yeah, I remember in college, I think I told you that I've got my Bachelor of Science in Physical Education as well. I remember in college having to take a wrestling class. We had to take every class imaginable, including 3 dance classes, which was always fun to watch football players doing ballet. The wrestling class we had to take, I discovered then, and I realize now, it's a far more cerebral sport than it sounds like, doesn't it? It's way more complicated than just the strongest person wins.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very technical sport, and obviously strength helps, but at the end of the day, leverage, knowing fulcrum points and things like that, and how to turn your opponent, that's a lot of the technical aspects of the sport.
Yeah, and so fulcrums and leverage and sounds like mathematics to me, which is probably why I was also a lousy wrestler. Derek, let's talk a little bit about the state of athletics in the county, high school athletics in the county. I know if I ask you how's it going, you're going to tell me it's going well, right? That athletics and sports in Loudoun County is strong. And the county keeps growing. We keep adding high schools. We're up to 17 now, I think, right?
Correct.
How many sports are being played now?
So right now we offer 25 sports, potentially going to add 2 additional sports this coming year with boys volleyball and girls wrestling, contingent on budget approval. So we're excited about that.
And our teams meaning our high school teams, have been fairly successful, haven't they? You mentioned to me that we had quite a few state championships last year.
Yes, they have. Last year we had 16 state championships. We captured 5 in the fall, 3 in the winter, and then 8 in the spring. Since 1972. 1972 was the first time a Loudoun County Public Schools high school team won a state championship, and that was Loudoun Valley and baseball. And since 1972, we've won 220 state titles. The majority of them being in girls soccer. We've won 27 state titles in girls soccer, followed by volleyball with 24 and softball with 21.
So why that big number for soccer? Is that because youth soccer is so strong, do you think?
Youth soccer has been very strong in Loudoun for years. We have a number of travel organizations, and I believe that Loudoun Soccer has been instrumental in growing our youth programs at very young ages, and our student athletes latch on to soccer. And it's been really successful. We've had tremendous success in having great coaches that have been instrumental in leading our girls to be highly successful. Claire Collins at Broad Run was just inducted into the Broad Run Hall of Fame. And now she's one of our assistant athletic directors at Broad Run. I think right off the top of my head, I think Claire won 5 state titles as a coach.
Is there coordination between the youth leagues and high school sports? Are
No,
there rules against it, or how does that work? Is there any?
We don't really collaborate a lot. We worked with Loudoun Soccer and to start a partnership with our physical education curriculum. And what we're trying to do is we recognize there's a shortage of officials. So one of the things we have done is partnered with them to offer an officials class during one of our physical education. So it's typically offered during the 11th and 12th grade year. Provides them, we're hoping what it will do is as we progress in the future, we won't see the immediate impact of having additional officials, but we do think down the road that this will help pave the way of having access to more officials, hopefully better, they'll be better trained because we're starting the training process at a younger age, and they're working youth games along the way as they build the resume and platform to become a high school and potentially an NCAA official down the road.
Is officiating, the lack of officials, is that across all sports? I mean, are there enough umpires for baseball and softball, for example, enough officials for football?
So what you would see is that we are facing a challenge, a shortage with officials. One of the things that we've had to do is what we're used to or accustomed to are traditional play dates, right? And Friday night lights is, one of the things people look forward to.
Sure.
And now it's becoming Thursday night lights, or it's becoming Saturday during the day night lights. So those are things that we've encountered where we used to play like volleyball on typically a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Monday, Thursday rotation. We've had to play, intermix some Wednesdays in because we're all using the same officials association, us and Fairfax and Prince William for the most part. So it is difficult to meet those challenges, especially when we all want to have our games on a set day.
Of course. Schedules the officials. Is that done across the county or is it done by school?
So it's done across the county. We make a master schedule for all district games. Now, non-district games, those are typically scheduled by the schools. We send a schedule in. I'll give you an example. Field hockey is one of those sports where we have challenges with officials. So we play double headers at one school, and I'll just use an example, like Riverside might be playing Briar Woods. Also playing at Riverside might be Dominion against Loudoun Valley. It's because the Field Hockey's Officials Association doesn't have enough officials to be able to cover two sites. So we have to be creative in certain sports. Sometimes in baseball, we'll have to do, if there's a rain out, we'll have to do a baseball JV doubleheader just to try to get those games in because there is a lack of officials.
And you have to have a certain number of games played to qualify for tournaments and that kind of thing, I would guess.
For seeding purposes, you want every school to have the same number of games so you can seed adequately.
Yeah.
Are there times that we have to go to different resources in our handbook to seed teams? Yes, because obviously if we don't have an abundance of turf fields we don't have any for baseball and softball currently. So if we can't make up some of those games, and some teams may have gotten their games in, we have to obviously go to a tie-breaking method if there is a tiebreaker and one team had fewer games than the others.
Derek, are there some sports where there is a lack of coaches, where we need more coaches to develop for high school sports?
We do have challenges trying to hire coaches. When I first started coaching in Loudoun back in 1999, there was only 5 high schools at the time. It was really competitive to get a coaching position in Loudoun. And now you have 17 high schools, and, there's only so many coaches out there that are willing to make all the sacrifices and dedication, devotion to the craft of coaching. And part of the issues we run into is this really specialized sports like gymnastics, where it's challenging to find coaches who probably are already coaching at a club level, which takes a lot of time away from their ability to be accessible to us. Most of our other sports we'll have 1 or 2 applicants, but sports like football and basketball, you'll see, probably 15 to 20 applicants. But sports like tennis and track and lacrosse, you're typically seeing 1 to 3 applicants on an annual basis when we have to post positions. So it is becoming more challenging. Our stipends, we don't pay as much as our travel teams do in Loudoun. So it's challenging to attract individuals, to pull them away from coaching travel when they know they're going to make more money coaching travel than coaching for us.
All right, let me jump in for a second because this is interesting and has been interesting to me. I never heard of a youth league coach being paid, but these travel teams are paying their coaches. I didn't realize that they're competitive with a high school coach level, but...
Yeah, I don't know exactly the dollar amounts that they're making, but I know that, we're competitive in high school athletics. Our coaching stipends are very competitive in the metropolitan area. But when you compare ourselves to private entities and the ability to do private instruction, so a private instructor can charge a parent $115 an hour for a private session, right? Where they're not. I mean, our coaches don't. They barely make minimum wage. If you count out a season, we don't.
Yeah, of
They're not
course.
even making minimum wage. So
Right. Wow. So what's the future look like? I mean, one of the things that's been intriguing to me is the explosion of flag football, for example, and now women's flag football. And there's been some discussion about, well, eventually high schools have flag football instead of tackle football, or flag football and tackle football. Are there other sports coming down the line that maybe we haven't heard about yet that you think will be at a high school level?
So girls flag football is on the rise. It is something we're carefully monitoring. Numbers are growing in Loudoun. There's Loudoun Flag that we typically reach out to see where their numbers are across our county. There is significant interest. We have meetings set up in the near future with the commanders to talk about this a little bit, take a deeper dive into it. Currently, it's not a Virginia High School League sport, so it hasn't reached emerging sports status. Typically, when the Virginia High School League looks to add a new sport, they do so in emerging sports status, which is basically 3 years, and during that 3 years, they want to see the growth of the sport. After 3 years, if they meet the 50% plus one, meaning the membership has 50% plus one schools participating, they will add it as an official sport. And they just did that with girls wrestling. They did it with another activity called eSports, which is not an athletic. It's called eSports, but it's really not an athletic event. It's more a gaming platform. Yeah.
Holy cow! Wow.
So other sport, I mean, eSports, there's scholarships for it. We have we do have a number of schools that offer it. We're very competitive. We've won a number of state titles in eSports as well. Our coaches currently volunteer to do it. We are looking to potentially add it. Esports attracts a different type of person. Not everyone wants to be an athlete. Not everyone wants to be in the choir or marching band or in drama. So it's an activity that attracts a different person. And activities are important. It builds community connections within our schools.
And your title is actually Director of Athletics and Activities. Is that what that meant? I was going to ask that question. What did that mean? I wondered if you were also handling the junior prom or the senior prom kind of thing. What does activities mean? So
activities, we monitor, like last year we added 302 new extracurricular clubs. So clubs, we empower students that have interest in, it could be anything from fly fishing to environmental club to a recycling club. Could be, young Republicans or young Democrats. But we have a number of student-led, student interest clubs that are basically, they go through a vetting process at the school level and then through our office as well. But yes, we do. We provide guidance. We also give a little oversight on homecoming. We also run a student leadership conference every year now called WILD. We're intentional about leadership development. So it's just our way of making sure that we're inclusive.
This is all under your umbrella?
Yes, sir.
So you must have an extensive staff of 30 or 40 people, right?
No, we have a staff of 5.
Yes, I was being a little sarcastic.
Sorry, 4. Well, counting myself.
Only 4. Do intramurals still exist? Are there sports being played not at the scholastic level?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, we added a middle school intramural program. This is year 3, and we've expanded it. Initially, we brought it on 2 years ago, and it was only at 4 middle schools as a pilot program. And now we expanded it to all 18 middle schools. We have like an LCPS championship, which is going to be on October 25th for flag football. We offer 4 sports. We do flag football. We do 3-on-3 basketball, 6-on-6 volleyball, and 7-on-7 soccer. And we have a championship at the end of each of the seasons and crowning like an LCPS champion. At the high school level, they're allowed to, they also have intramural sports if they have interest in doing so. We've seen it with girls flag football mainly. Some of them will have like a volleyball club, or you'll see other clubs that they just meet to discuss like strategies. Like we have like cross country skiing. Well, we don't take students on field trips or cross-country skiing, but we do talk about strategies, and they'll meet and talk about different slopes and different resorts that they want to go ski at and how to tackle this hill or how to tackle that slope. So we do offer a wide range of.
I don't know how you're doing all this, to tell you the truth. Just to kind of wind down here a little bit, a couple of other questions to ask you about the future. I recently spoke to a pretty high-level athlete, professional athlete, who said that NIL, name, image, and likeness, is actually going down to the high school level. Is that true? Are we seeing that at all in Loudoun County?
So we've had 2 students sign NIL deals. The Virginia High School League has a vetting process of how NIL can operate within the state of Virginia. And we've had 2 students that have signed deals. Now, do I think it's going to continue to grow? I do. I think
just so the people listening and hearing and seeing this podcast, NIL means the athlete is actually paid to endorse a product or to let them use their name to sell products?
Correct. So they could endorse it. They can do it either through social media, like promotion. They are promoting a product. They sometimes receive monetary value for their endorsement and being able to endorse their products. Most of the time they're seeing that they're getting free product, right? Number of colleges is, I have a daughter running at Longwood, and, one of the things that they do is like LMNT is like basically it's a powder that you kind of dissolve in water that helps with rehydration, right? So that, they get free product as long as they endorse it on their social media platforms. So that's one way of doing it. And ours are the ones I've seen so far are more product endorsement, not monetary endorsement. So they're getting free product for endorsing.
I interrupted you, but I think you were going to say that you think it's going to expand. NIL will expand beyond where it is now.
I do think it will expand beyond, unless there's legislation to actually curtail it. That's how it kind of all came. The name, image, likeness really started back with Ed, I believe Ed O'Banion with UCLA, and him, his image being on a EA sports game, right? Through legal matters, and that's how it was resolved in court. And then now all of a sudden there's laws that provide students with the opportunity for monetary product gains based on their name, image, or likeness. I mean, you have a number of athletes that are actually making more money than some of our number of college athletes making more money than our professional athletes. Back in the day when you went to college, it was because you wanted the education and you were awarded a scholarship based on your athletic talent or ability. But now it's like, we're going to find out a way to pay you as well as giving you a full scholarship.
The other thing happening at college athletics, of course, is the transfer. It used to be when you transferred from one college to another, it was Division I, you had to sit out a year. Do high school athletes transfer as well? Do they go to different, and can you do that? I mean, how do you, if you don't live in that district, how do you transfer to a different high school? Or maybe you can't do it.
So the Virginia High School League, we're members, we're voting members. Our 17 high schools are voting members of the Virginia High School League. And basically there's rules that prohibit certain things. So one of them is a transfer without a corresponding move. So you might want to go to this other school to play a sport, but you can't go there unless you move into their attendance zone. There are some other exceptions. There's like 17 exceptions in the VHL handbook that might qualify you to be eligible, but most of the time a transfer is because they physically actually made a corresponding move, sold their previous residence and moved into a new attendance zone. That's the sure way of, getting eligibility granted. Or, there's a number of issues over the last couple of years with transfers, and it made, in Virginia, that made local and regional and national news. So the Virginia High School League this past year adopted a lot of legislation to address the whole transfer piece amongst student athletes at the high school level.
So, Derek, a lot of kids participate in high school athletics, right? I mean, what percentage of the student body now is participating in either a boys or a girls sport?
So Basically, 1 out of every 2 students in Loudoun County Public Schools participates in at least one sport, if not more than one. Over the last couple of years, we've seen our numbers go from just over 12,000 student athletes participating to 14,000 annual basis. If you were to look at our male and female participation numbers, they're almost dead even at 50%. It's like 49.7 and 51.3. So really happy and pleased, and obviously possibly adding 2 new sports will also drive those numbers even higher. Each year, last 3 years coming out of COVID, each year we've set new participation records. And
what sports growing the fastest?
So the sports that we see growing the fastest from a female side is our numbers are going up in sports like lacrosse, track and field, swimming, and wrestling. And I think the wrestling part is because the quick emergence of female wrestling there's college programs being added on a yearly basis. So I think our girls are seeing opportunities to garner scholarships in a really fast growing sport like girls wrestling. Now you got schools like the University of Iowa, who is a really dominant men's wrestling program, adding girls wrestling as well, and seeing a lot of success there. And having, we're going to have the Virginia High School League was having state tournaments for girls wrestling the last 3 years. So obviously moving forward and having those chances to earn a state championship, I think is quite compelling for them.
Are there any sports that are beginning to decline a little?
Haven't seen significant declines. I mean, our sports that we haven't seen amazing growth, like field hockey's been stable. Softball has declined a little bit. I think it's because what we see is, I think some of our student athletes feel like if they're not part of a travel or club program, they're not qualified to be able to participate at the high school level. Well, that's not the case at all. The JV level is a developmental stage time, a time to equip them with skills, teach them the fundamentals of the sport. Then varsity is obviously, fine-tuning those skills and making them more competitive in nature. So those are the sports we typically see a decline in, or just it's more stable. We're not seeing a significant growth. It's kind of balanced. The numbers haven't adjusted too much.
Do lots of sports have JV sports as well, JV teams as well?
We do offer JV, an aspect of JV or sub-varsity sports in almost every one of our sports, minus a few, such as like swimming. Cross country will have huge numbers, but it's really called a varsity sport only. Track and field's kind of varsity only. Tennis is varsity only, but like basketball, volleyball, football, wrestling, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, they all have like a sub-varsity level of some sort, either with JV or JV and freshman. And we typically field all those levels. We have some schools that might not field a freshman team if there is one offered in that sport, but it's more because of, not from a lack of effort, it's more of there's just not interest at that particular school in that sport.
Well, Derek, so appreciate you coming on the podcast. Appreciate all the work you're doing. I don't know how you're doing it with 4 or 5 people, but it's pretty astounding what's going on in Loudoun County. We certainly see sports continuing to grow. You would think eventually it would slow down, but I don't think that's going to happen. One of the things that we're excited about at Loudoun now is that we're moving towards beginning to post your daily scores on the Loudoun Now Daily. That's coming up pretty soon. And so we're excited to be a partner with Loudoun County Public Schools. And we, again, appreciate all you're doing for our kids and their parents and the coaches for athletics here in Loudoun County. Thanks for being on the show, Derek.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to everything that you guys are going to do for us. It's been something that we've been missing for quite a while.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. We so appreciate it. Thanks for all the work you're doing with that massive staff of 4 people. I don't know how you're handling athletics and all those activities. Thanks for coming on the podcast, and we look forward to talking to your coaches and your athletic directors at specific schools as we go forward as well. So we're signing off here from Loudoun Now Sports Talk. See you next time.